This is the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Your hosts are Seth Jacobson and Patrick Heiler.
Hi, I'm Seth.
And I'm Patrick.
So this is part 2 of the Prologue of Fires of Heaven.
This will be a conversation amongst four Forsaken.
And this is the start of a trend. As the prologues get longer and longer, there are going to be more and more parts. Because they're not going to just be 2 parts. There's going to be some prologues. There's going to be 3, 4, 5 parts.
Yeah, isn't one of the prologues like 87 pages or something?
Something ridiculous
it's like its own book. Yeah, I've read shorter books. And like Seth said, this is part 2 of the prologue to the Fires of Heaven. Our symbol was the snake in the wheel at the beginning of this. I feel like I should add that. Should I launch right into this?
Yeah, let's just do that.
Lounging in a gilded chair in his shirt sleeves, one booted leg over the padded arm, Rahvin smiled as the woman standing before the fireplace repeated what he had told her. There was a slight glaze in her large brown eyes. A young, pretty woman, even in the plain gray woolens she had adopted for a disguise. But that was not what interested him about her. No breath of air stirred through the room's small windows. Sweat rolled down the woman's face as she spoke, and beaded on the narrow face of the other man present. For all of that man's fine red silk coat and its golden embroidery, he stood as stiffly as a servant, which he was, in a way, if of his own free will, unlike the woman. Of course, he was deaf and blind for the moment. Rahvin handled flows of spirit woven around the pair delicately. There was no need to damage valuable servants. He did not sweat, of course. He did not let the summer's lingering heat touch him. He was a tall man, large, dark and handsome despite the white streaking his temples. Compulsion had presented no difficulties with this woman. A scowl twisted his face. It did with some. A few, very few, had a strength of self so firm that their minds searched, even if unaware, for crevices through which to slide away. It was his bad luck that he still had some small need for one such. She could be handled, but she kept trying to find escape without knowing she was trapped. Eventually, that one would no longer be needed, of course. He would have to decide whether to send her on her way or be rid of her more permanently. Dangers lay either way. Nothing that could threaten him, of course, but he was a careful man, meticulous. Small dangers had a way of growing if ignored, and he always chose his risks with a measure of prudence. To kill her or keep her? Figured I'd leave that there.
He's definitely talking about Morgase there, is the one he has to.
Yeah, Rahvin's referring to Morgase. And we get at least one example from Morgase's point of view where we see her struggling with the compulsion.
Definitely. And that's when she actually escapes, right?
Yes, but there's a scene when a letter from Elaine is delivered to her. From Matt? From Matt.
That's right. Yep,
Matt drops off the letter. And he's standing there, and then we see from Morgase's point of view, as she's listening to the letter be read or whatever, I forget the wording of it, but she realizes that she's should care but doesn't, and she's like internally fighting against the compulsion. That's right. What Rahvin's talking about. She's too strong-minded to be controlled easily, and we see that with a couple of other characters in the series. It happens to Nynaeve.
Yeah, because they broke through Moghedien's compulsion of them. That's how Nynaeve was able to fight her in the stone.
Right.
Any idea who this red Aes Sedai is here that he has under compulsion?
No, she's a red. We see later Lanfear points out that she's Aes Sedai.
I may am getting the red from the wiki.
Oh, good. Yeah, I don't know that is in here. But Rahvin does. We learn from his inner monologue that she's an unwilling servant of Rahvin. She's not a dark friend, I think. She's just being used anyway.
Nodding.
As opposed to the man who's a minor Andoran lord, who is a dark friend.
Yeah, and he's one of the guys. Later, we see him just like kissing Rand's ass.
Of course,
like he's one of those nobles who just like is trying to get anything he can. But yeah. I think that's the only other time we see him is one of those ass kissers who Rand's like, these guys are worthless. Is this one of the first occasions we hear of the Forsaken not sweating as well as the Aes Sedai? We've gotten that a bunch during the last book, that the Aes Sedai didn't sweat.
Yeah, a bit. We do see in this scene the Aes Sedai is sweating, but she's not present. Like, she's not herself.
Right. And we see Rahvin's not sweating. Yeah.
Yeah. He did not let the heat touch him.
Uh-huh. And we see here he talks about the true source, the taint from the true source rolling off the protection of the bonds. So we see that his oaths, the Dark One, is what keeps him safe.
Yeah.
And then in walks our favorite, the lady in white, Lanfear.
One of your play pretties, a woman's voice said behind him as the carved door closed. And so just as Rahvin's servants leave, or these people he's giving orders to, they shut the door, and behind it, apparently, Lanfear had already opened a gateway. They shut the door, and Lanfear's standing there.
Mm-hmm.
A gateway stood above the red and gold carpet, an opening to somewhere else. He had a brief view of a chamber lined with snowy silken hangings before it vanished, leaving a woman clad in white and belted in woven silver. I thought I'd put that there in case it gives us any clues as to where Lanfear is supposed to be, but a chamber lined with snowy silken hangings is not really, doesn't give us much.
No, I'm not sure she really has a home. I mean, I think she's, we know she's in the Waste, right?
Yeah.
That's Kylie. So, that could be just a tent, or she could have traveled somewhere else before traveling to Rahvin.
Right, and at this point she would have revealed herself to Rand.
Yes, because she put the shield on Asmodean.
Yeah, so she could be literally anywhere. She pours herself a drink with the power. I kind of
the question is she covering up something else? She's channeling to move the pitcher, but the only thing that Rahvin can feel is a slight tingle. Right. And she's doing something obvious like channeling the pitcher, but could she be doing something else?
She could be.
I think she might be letting the others know it's safe to come through now.
I like that. And we do see Lanfear say in a second, because Rahvin's you can't just go popping up like that. It might have, you should send an emissary and we'll arrange a meeting if I want to have a meeting. Lanfear kind of chuckles at him.
I remember that just being a point of speculation back on the old forums is does Lanfear do anything else right there? And no one really had any answers as far as I could tell. So I was just Sammael does show up right after she channels, so maybe she does something to be like, the others can come on through. Yeah.
And this is where Lanfear tries to warn Rahvin that he's meddling with an Aes Sedai, and Rahvin kind of, scoffs it off, says she's not strong enough to be allowed outdoors without a keeper. And I just like that Lanfear's retort is, would he still be so complacent if those untutored children put a circle of 13 around you? Implying that, you can say whatever you want, you can believe what you want about these people, but they're plenty dangerous.
Yeah, they're just untrained. They're not dangerous.
Right. So, you put all the weapons in the world in the hands of a highly trained soldier, and they're, very effective. But you put all the weapons in the world in an untrained toddler, and they're still wicked dangerous, man.
Right. You probably have no problem killing most of them in a one-on-one battle, but you know what? It just takes one toddler with a spear to take you out.
Yeah. I take my precautions, Lanfear. Rather than one of my play pretties, as you call them. She's the tower's spy here. Now she reports exactly what I want her to, and she's eager to do so. Those who serve the Chosen in the tower told me right where to find her. So, that tells us that this Aes Sedai is stationed in Caemlyn. So is she supposed to be... No, Morgase doesn't have an advisor right now. She's never taken on a new advisor.
No, not after Elida left.
But it isn't crazy or anything that there would certainly be Aes Sedai in Caemlyn anyway. Oh, and that explains her disguise, or why she would need one.
Yeah, she's not supposed to be there.
Rahvin asks, why have you come here? This is where we see Lanfear channeling again. She just pours herself a drink.
Mm-hmm.
But Lanfear responds by saying, since you avoid the rest of us, a few of the Chosen will be coming here. I came first, so you would know it was not an attack. And eventually... I think it's 4 total gather in the room. Rahvin, Lanfear, Sammael, Graendal.
Although I did notice, did you know a lean old man in a wrinkled coat sat I don't know that word.
I think it's disconsolately. It means like he can't be consoled.
Yeah, that disconsolately among the performers. Did you know who that is?
Is that through Graendal's gateway?
Yeah.
That he sees that? Sammael shows up first, then Graendal shows up. No, but I'm assuming he's... Does anyone have an idea who the...
So, an old man who's been abused by the Shadow, brought in, compelled, and then later released. A man who died clean. You tell him, Jain Farstrider died clean.
Aradia said it, and I didn't even get it. It's just sitting there in Discord.
It's Jain Farstrider. He's been kidnapped and under compulsion, and he's sitting right there through the gateway. This is our first glimpse of Jain.
Crazy. I love it. But yes, Sammael shows up, and we get our descriptions of each one. Graendal shows up. They all kind of tease him, where they're like, "Oh, what? You're not sleeping with the Aes Sedai? Come on, what happened to the old Rahvin?" And he's like, "No, I'm not like that." And they're like, "Yeah, you are, dude. Yeah, you are. You're just the only one that it won't admit it."
He totally, because he has 7-8 women that he's sleeping with. Some of them are queens. He's just like that.
Why deny it? It's, you're one of the Forsaken. I liked, Graendal said, nearly half of the surviving Chosen in one place, and no one trying to kill anyone. Who would have expected it before the great Lord of the Dark returns? Ishamael did manage to keep us from one another's throats for a time, but this?
Yeah, this is an actual sort of alliance, kind of. Lanfear manipulating folks again.
Yeah, a loose alliance to kind of not kill each other for the time being.
Mm-hmm.
We get a lot of descriptions of the 3 other Forsaken in Rahvin's mind. I can't think of anything in particular I really want to get at here, because I feel like we and our listeners know these Forsaken well enough that we don't have to describe them or talk about their personalities or tastes.
The one thing I will say is Rahvin asks, was he really that strong? And she's like, yeah, absolutely. And that's also because he had the Chosen Call at that point,
Lanfear doesn't mention that part.
No. She's like...
She just kind of says, because at this point they're talking about Asmodean.
Mm-hmm. And she's lying her face off about what happened there, because she's not telling them anything about her setting him up. She's telling her story. She's not telling them what actually happened.
Right. And that's in response to, Lanfear says, once we were 13 and immortal, now 4 are dead and 1 has betrayed us. We 4 are all who meet here today, and enough. And Sammael says, are you really sure Asmodean went over to the light? And I also like that Sammael adds, he never had the courage to take a chance before. Where did he find the heart to join a lost cause? Which very much kind of demonstrates the way the Chosen are thinking about their task at hand here. Taking over the world should be relatively easy, right? If it's basically the Iron Age. Of course, Lanfear seems to be the only one with the wherewithal to know that these people are actually still quite dangerous.
People don't change. Just the time in which they exist does.
Yeah.
It's, do you think I could go back to Rome and take over? No. Get my ass killed. And that was only 2,000 years ago.
And a little later, Sammael says, why did you leave him alive? You could have killed him before he knew you were there. And Lanfear says, and this is mostly lies, I'm not as quick to kill as you. It is final, with no going back, and there are usually other, more profitable ways. Besides, to put it in terms you would understand, I did not want to launch a frontal assault against superior forces. And that's when Rahvin says, is he really so strong? And we know that Lanfear is referring to this moment where Rand is standing there clutching the 2 Terangria. And Lanfear definitely couldn't have done anything.
Well, at that point, he is probably too tired to use them, but I'm not sure she realized that.
Oh, that's true. He probably was, and she probably didn't.
And then I like the way he turns it around. He's like, oh, would it be so easy? I seem to remember Lewis Theron had you by the nose, not the other way around. I thought that was kind of the way it goes. I mean, really, she ends up playing a little bit on his, because he doesn't want her at all, ever, in this lifetime or the last. And she wants him badly. And that means there's a power dynamic there that she can't really overcome.
She's obsessed with power.
Yeah, with his power. Ultimate power.
Telamon reborn, Lanfear said, just as softly, and Lews Therin was as strong as any.
And she also says he's no more than a shepherd that he seems, still more naive than not. But she's seen a few flashes of Lewis Theron come through, a few little phrases, a few bits of memory that he couldn't possibly... But I think she's been dismissing those.
For sure. The veil is already starting to part, to put it in those terms.
The corruption is coming through.
I'm going to read right from there. I had a little bit marked to read on the next page, but this is as good a place to start. He is Lewis Theron Telamon reborn, Lanfear said, just as softly, and Lewis Theron was as strong as any. Sammael absently rubbed the scar across his face. It had been Lewis Theron who gave it to him, 3,000 years ago and more, well before the breaking of the world, before the great lord was imprisoned, before so much. But Sammael never forgot. Well, Graendal put in, have we come around at last to what we are here to discuss? Rahvin gave a displeased start. The two servants were frozen still, or again, rather. Sammael muttered in his beard. If this Randall Thor really is Lewis Theron Telamon reborn, Graendal went on, settling herself on the man's back where he crouched on all fours, I am surprised you haven't tried to snuggle him into your bed, Lanfear, or would it be so easy? I seem to remember Lewis Theron led you around by the nose, not the other way around. Squelched your little tantrums, sent you running to fetch his wine, in a manner of speaking. She set her own wine on the tray, held out rigidly by the sightlessly kneeling woman. You were so obsessed with him, you'd have stretched out at his feet if he said a rug. Lanfear's dark eyes glittered for a moment before she regained control of herself. He may be Lewis Theron reborn, but he is not Lewis Theron himself. How do you know? Graendal asked, smiling as if it were all a joke. It may well be that, as many believe, all are born and reborn as the wheel turns. But nothing like this has ever happened, that I have read. A specific man reborn according to prophecy. Who knows what he is? Lanfear gave a disparaging smirk. I have observed him closely. He is no more than the shepherd he seems, still more naive than not. Scorn faded to seriousness. But now he has Asmodean, weak ally as he is. And even before Asmodean, 4 of the Chosen have died confronting him. Let him whittle away the dead wood, Sammael said gruffly. Again, the Chosen way overestimating themselves, except perhaps Lanfear, who seems to be one of the smarter ones amongst them.
Yeah, but she has some impulse control.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, they all do in some regard.
Right. But it's they're chosen, you know? Hey, that's the chosen of a dark one, man. You don't mess with that. I'm chosen. Of course I'm going to win. I've been chosen. By who? We're not going to get into that.
Lanfear's dark eyes still held distrust, but her voice was as clear as still water. Ishmael tried to control him and failed. Tried to kill him in the end, and failed. But Ishmael tried bullying and fear, and bullying does not work with Randall Thor. Ishmael was more than half mad, Sammael muttered, and less than half human. Is that what we are? Graendal arched an eyebrow. Merely human? Surely we are something more. This is human. She stroked a finger down the cheek of the woman kneeling beside her. A new word will have to be created to describe us. Whatever we are, Lanfear said, we can succeed where Ishmael failed. She was leaning slightly forward, as if to force the words on them. Lanfear seldom showed tension. Why now? Why only we 4? Rahvin asked. The other why would have to wait. Why more? Was Lanfear's reply. If we can present the Dragon Reborn kneeling to the Great Lord on the day of the return, why share the honor and the rewards further than need be? And perhaps he can even be used to, how did he put it, Sammael? Whittle away the dead wood? It was the sort of answer Rahvin could understand. Not that he trusted her, of course, or any of the others, but he understood ambition. The Chosen had plotted among themselves for a position up to the day Lewis Theron had imprisoned them in sealing up the Great Lord's prison, and they had begun again the day they were freed. He just had to be sure Lanfear's plot did not disrupt his own plans. Speak on, he told her. First, someone else is trying to control him, perhaps to kill. I suspect Morgase or Demandred. Morgase has always tried to work from the shadows, and Demandred always did hate Lewis Theron. Sammael smiled, or perhaps grimaced, but his hatred was a pale thing beside Demandred's, though for better cause. How do you know is not one of us here? Graendal asked quickly. Lanfear's smile showed as many teeth as the other woman's, and as little warmth. Because you 3 choose to carve out niches for yourself and secure power while the rest slash at each other, and other reasons. I told you I keep a close watch on Rand al'Thor. It was true, what she said of them. Rahvin himself preferred diplomacy and manipulation to open conflict, though he would not shy from it if needed. Sammael's way had always been armies and conquest. He would not go near Lews Therin, even reborn as a shepherd, until he was sure of victory. Graendal, too, followed conquest, though her methods did not involve soldiers. For all her concern with toys, she took one solid step at a time, openly, to be sure, as the Chosen reckoned such things, but never stretching too far at any step. You know I can keep an eye on him unseen, Lanfear continued, but the rest of you must stay clear, or run the risk of detection. We must draw him back. Graendal leaned forward, interested, and Sammael began to nod as she went on. Rahvin reserved judgment. It might well work, and if not, he saw several ways to shape events to his advantage. This might work out very well indeed.
What do you think her plan is there?
Well, so Lanfear has given Rand his teacher and purposely deceived the rest of the Forsaken in the room that Rand will be learning this whole time. I think that she was being honest when she agrees with Sammael that let us four make an alliance and use Rand al'Thor to whittle away the dead wood. She quoted right. Sammael. I think Lanfear's general purpose in this is she's gathering up the stronger Forsaken that have carved out something for themselves, and she's going to dupe them, or I think her intent is to dupe them into believing that they're in a tenuous alliance, get rid of the others, and then when they confront Rand, he'll be more powerful than they expected, leaving her and him.
I think she's also, she's giving him some space to learn here by having them draw back and giving him a chance to draw back into the city and stuff. But also, they may be setting traps, right? Samuel's setting up his trap in his city.
Rahvin as well?
Yeah, Rahvin as well. I mean, Rahvin's able to strike down with lightning as soon as they enter his city and kills Matt and Avienda and Asmodean.
Graendal has her plots going.
Yeah.
She's got Noel and the White Cloaks. Yeah, I think Lanfear has selected these because they're the ones who are coming up, who have independently come up with the strongest plans, which are each obviously individually different, but they're probably the most dangerous.
Also the ones who are in Randland, because Semirog is off doing her thing with the Shan-Chan. Demandred is off doing his thing in Shara, probably. I think, he's rescuing Taim, so he's setting that up right now. I mean, he probably hasn't gone to Shara yet.
People don't know where Moghedien is.
No one knows where Moghedien is, but she's in Tenchiko? Well, she was obviously in Abu Dar, where the Sad Bracelets were. Sorry, not Abu Dar.
No, I always confuse those couple of cities down there.
Yeah.
Tenchiko?
Yeah, Tenchiko.
Shit, we were just reading this.
I know, days ago. Messana has set herself up in the White Tower, so she's got her thing going on there. So that's 4. I feel like I'm missing one. Which one am I forgetting about?
Amongst those still alive, 4 are dead, so 9 total. 4 in that room.
Mm-hmm.
4
at least.
Plus Semirog, Moghedien, Messana.
Demandred.
That's 8.
We're missing 1. Rahvin's in the room. We named Moghedien. We're missing we're counting the Forsaken. 4 dead, so that's Bethamal, Agenor, Ishmael, and Alal are all dead. 1 is turned, that's Asmodean, and 4 are in the room.
Oh, so Asmodean's still alive.
No, but she named him. That gets us to 9. So who are the last?
4 that are dead. Wait.
Oh no, I guess you're right. Yeah. But he's a traitor. Right. So 4 dead. 4 in the room is 8. 1 traitor is 9, and then the other 4 we named.
Yeah.
Okay, let's turn recording off because I'm going to cut all that junk at the end.
Thank you for listening to the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Rate us in the Apple Podcast app or support us on Patreon. Is that good enough?